Can't get any words. Podcast on blast, giving you the real talk, no holding back. Can't get any worse, we'll make you see. There's always a silver lining. We'll set you free, so join the movement. Let's change the game with the Can't Get Any Worse podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Can't Get Any Worse podcast. Let's fucking make this quick. Let's make this quick, eh? This episode, she's going to be a quick one, which some of you might be happy about, some of you might not be happy about. But the reasoning behind that, this is a first time in a long time that I've done a pre-pod install. So it's fucking afternoon now. So she's going to be tight to get this edited and uploaded before I have to shoot off for a gig tonight. So let's rip right in. This episode is going to have no bells and whistles. This is just a good old-fashioned pod, couple of quick stories, couple of fucking this and that and yada, yada, yada. And that's all it's going to be. As I'm saying this, I just realized I have not checked. You know what? We're going to do that when we get to the video later because fucking it'll just be weird to do it at this point. Yeah, middle of the day. It's fucking hot as AIDS in here right now. I don't know if you guys can see the beads of sweat just dripping down my face already, but I'm going to be a wet boy by the end of this episode. I'm going to be a real wet boy. But yeah, went and did a little install. I know I mentioned that I'm pretty much done with the business, but this one fell in my lap, and I don't know, clients seem nice enough, so fucking let's do it. So all went in, no issues. They're the jobs you want. So, yeah, instead of can't get any worse, can't get any better. Am I right, guys? Oh, first drink sip. Let's go. Oh, boy. But, yeah, to kick it off, my apologies for last week's episode. Obviously, I spoke about the shambles with the battery and the camera and things like that. And then when I finished the podcast, went and exported it all, there's only like 12 minutes of footage on there for some reason. So, fucks me what went wrong. Did a bit of Googling and found out what the issue might have been. So, I've gone and played with what it's told me. And let's see how this one comes out. Again, if it doesn't work, I'm sorry. And this is also the first episode with the fan in the studio. So, I hope that's not coming across. It never used to. But who knows? Stranger things have happened. But in the wake of last week's episode not recording, it did make me think a little bit, right? The longest and most strenuous part about doing this podcast is editing the video to upload it to YouTube, right? Like that takes hours. The audio, piece of piss. Like I could have that uploaded, edited, and posted all within an hour. It's the video that takes it out of you. So I put a story up on Instagram last week saying that the YouTube video might be a little bit late. And as I was stressing about trying to get this YouTube video out, I was like, fuck, is video still worth it? Like, I know a couple of you watch on YouTube, but it's a small portion. So it's like, oh, is this the line? Is this the line that I draw in the sand and go, no more fucking video, just audio only, just until things pick up like drastically, you know what I mean? But then on the other side of the coin, I'm like, oh, but then I won't be able to clip any clips for social media because obviously I'd have to record regardless. So I don't know. If you guys want to send me your opinions, what do you guys think? What do you guys like to see or hear or whatever? Because yeah, in my head, until I get a bit of a hand, a bit of a producer or someone I can start swinging some money to for this bad boy, there's a lot of work that goes into it, which I've spoken about before. So let me know what you guys want to see. If you want me to keep up with the whole YouTube thing, more than happy to. Yeah, we'll see. Let me know. Keep me posted. Jesus, I did not expect it to be this hot in here. I don't know what's happening. But what else have we got? So let's rip into what's happened this week, eh? We might as well rip right into it. How far are we in? Oh, 4 minutes. Nice. So let's dip back to last week in my regular day job. I do go out to a job site to measure a house for cabinetry. And as I've left the shed, right, I've gone, fuck, I should have pissed before I left the shed. And like, it was early enough that I could have done a weird U-turn around the car park, gone to the toilet. But then I would have had to listen to everyone be like, oh, that was quick. That was a fucking quick trip. And I just was not in the mood for it. So I was like, I'm just going to hold it. The job's about 15 minutes away. There'll be a portaloo there. Everything will be fine. Now, by the time I drive the 15 minutes and I get to the job, as I'm driving down the street, I see the magical portaloo in the distance. I jump out of my van, run over to the portaloo, put my iPad and my tape measure and shit down beside it. And as I've stepped in the portaloo, which is up a little bit, I don't know if you guys are familiar with job sites, but sometimes they're not in the most convenient positions. So this one's on a bit of like a hilled site, right? And I didn't take too much notice as I was approaching, but as I've put my first step up and put all my weight on the portaloo, I've felt the whole portaloo almost like sway forward to where my weight is. So then I've felt that and I've quickly had to lift my other leg up and place it in the portaloo as well to almost like counterbalance the whole portaloo. And when I say this is the scariest piss that I have ever taken, I'm not exaggerating. I was fucking petrified the whole time. But like literally, this is how crazy it was, right? This is how off balance the whole portaloo was. As I was pissing into the portaloo, the weight of my piss splashing around in the water, what is it? Like reservoir at the bottom. Like that movement of the water was, I for sure thought I was going to fall over and get a portaloo on top of me, like Jackass 2 style. I think it was Jackass 2, but yeah, definitely the scariest piss. And then before I left site, I'm like, I started to get that urge again, and I'm like, fuck. And I went back for more. I think I like the thrill of it. I think I like the thrill of the scary piss. But yeah, I sort of knew how to play the game this second time. I was prepared for it. I was putting my weight in all corners of the portaloo, trying to weigh it out. But yeah, unfortunately, it didn't fall on me. So I can't give you guys a crazy crescendo to that story. But yeah, just thought I'd bring that to the table of the crazy time that I took a piss on site. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Trust me, as I was jotting these down, I was like, these are going to make for some amazing stories this week. And now, like, coming in here on a boiling hot day after installing a fuckload of cabinetry, it zapped me. It zapped the fuck out of me. So hang in there, guys. Let's see if we can steer this thing back on track. We'll see how we go. But here's a crazy thing. While I was on site, I forgot to upload like a file onto my iPad before I left. And for whatever reason, I can't access this file on my iPad anymore unless I'm in the office. So I've had to call the office boys, and they're like, yeah, we'll send it through via email, yada, yada, yada. Big fucking whatever. You guys don't need to hear that part. Now, something, and you guys are probably like, no shit, James, we listen to you every week. But my brain is so fucking weird and just thinks of the most random shit 24/7. Like, I have like the biggest stoner brain you'll ever see without being stoned. Like you could put me in a room of 20 potheads and they'd all be throwing around these crazy things and they'd all be like, yeah, that was crazy, man. I can't believe you just thought of that. And I'd be sitting there sober and I'd be like, oh, have you guys ever thought of this? And they'd be like, whoa, that's fucking trippy, man. But here's and you guys might even just hear this and go, that's not that's not a crazy thing to think. That is, you're retarded. You're actually retarded. But the space that I needed to measure had a fuckload of sheets of gyprock lent up against the wall. So the boys are like, give us 5 minutes, we'll send them through. I'm like, sweet, I've got to move all this shit anyway, right? So I've picked up the first sheet of gyprock, and it's like a full sheet of gyprock, right? So I don't know what that would be, say 3600 by 1200 millimeters for the Australian listeners, American listeners. Do your own conversions. I don't have time for that. And as I've lifted the sheet of gyprock, I'm like, fuck, that's heavy. I've moved it, lifted the other one. I'm like, there is so much fucking gyprock in this house. Like, it is crazy how much like weight must be in the gyprock of a standard house. And then I was like, holy fuck. And then I was like, timber studs, they're heavy as fuck. Then you've got all your plumbing, your electrical, you've got your fucking concrete slab. And then I've just started to imagine, I'm like, how heavy is your standard house? Like, is that not a crazy thing to imagine? It blew my mind. I stood there for like 15 minutes just trying to understand how something that heavy can just be placed on the earth and not just fucking like sink into it. You know what I mean? And all you earth movers and shit that are going to come to me with logical explanations. This isn't the podcast for that. This is just a bit of fun where you sit down and go, fuck, houses are heavy. And you guys listen and go, I think he's onto something. That is actually genius. Anyway, then the office boys called me back and I ran it past them. And we just engaged in this crazy conversation as to like, imagine, because there's I don't know, probably more than millions, right? There'd be billions of houses. Like, well, yeah, that's a fucking crazy. See, these are the loops that I get in my head. Okay, there's billions upon, there's probably multiple billions now that I think about it. When you take into account houses plus skyscrapers, other fucking weird buildings, everything like that, just crushing down on the Earth's surface 24/7. And every single day we're building more and more. And I was like, how is like the weight from just each side of the world just not crushing in on each other? You know what I mean? Because that's a lot of weight. And then we realized the Earth was flat and that's why that's not happening. But that's a joke. I'm just fucking joking. But is that not a crazy thing to you guys? And then we started imagining things like we're building all these things off the Earth's surface, right? So the Earth started off as just a ball, and yeah, it had trees and mountains and shit like that, right? But it rotates, and it had its rotation sussed before we came along. Then we started building all these buildings and houses and shit that are protruding from this surface as well, creating wind drag, creating additional weight. Like, is the Earth spinning slower now than it used to? And I'm like, that's fucking mental. Like, as I've just spoken all this out, I'm like, fuck, I'm glad Adrian's not on the podcast right now, because I would just imagine looking across the table at his disgusted look going, how dare you question science like this? But just something to think about, you know? I think we all need to take a part out of our Tuesday. Just sit down and think about, A, how heavy houses are, and B, how the Earth still functions with what we've done to it. Crazy things happening in here today. Let's have a little sippy sip. Oh, yeah. Speaking about houses, I mentioned a while ago now that Nikita and I were contemplating selling or something, you know what I mean? Like, we got our house valued for a ridiculous amount, and it was like, shit, should we do something? And then we started looking at other houses, and we're like, we're going to, like, in our area at the moment, would have to pay $1 million for, like, a renovator, if that makes sense. Like, if we wanted to buy, like, a house the next level up, like with a bigger yard or a swimming pool or something like that, like, starting point $1 million, and then you've got to renovate the fuck out of it. And I was just like, it does not seem worth it at this stage. And who knows if they're just going to keep skyrocketing, and in 10 years' time, I'm going to be like, fuck, I wish we bought that crack den in Eagleby for $1 million. But you'll never know. Anyway, we put that on the back burner, and we're like, fuck, we've got all this equity sitting in the house, just sitting there unused. Since we're not going to sell in the next probably 2 years, I'd imagine, that'd be a minimum. Why don't we look at just getting a bit of money out and just helping, like, because there's heaps of shit that's happened to the house recently that I don't even think I've spoken about on here, but like roofs leaking, our whole side fence is like, Westy kicks a soccer ball against it, and I'm like, no more kicking balls against fence, because like he kicks the ball against it and that thing's just flapping in the breeze for the next 10 minutes. So I'm like, this is going to be the time that it falls over. So just little annoying maintenance shit like that. Like, you're not going to do anything to the house and then step back and go, fuck yeah, that looks amazing. Like, it's just maintenance shit. So I was like, oh, okay, well, why don't we look at, getting some equity out on our house and just a bit of fucking play money, you know what I mean? Like, we haven't been away on a holiday for ages. Like, the only time we've been away in the last 3 years has been when I've had like a comedy gig more than 3 hours away, and I've been like, all right, you guys can come along for a little trip. So yeah, just shit like that. So we called our mortgage broker. We've had the same mortgage broker since we bought this bad boy. Just like, she just seemed to click with us. Everything we wanted her to do, she was able to somehow do it. So we've never had to look around. This chick's amazing. I don't think she'd want me to give her a plug on this shitty platform that talks about Dixon all day. But super helpful. If you want her details and you're in the housing game, DM me and I'll give them to you in private. But yeah, we're having a chat to her, and anyone that knows me or Nikita, let's say Nikita, right? Nikita is she's the financier of the family, right? She is the one that's good with money. You give me $10,000, you come back tomorrow and I've got 93 new hobbies. I've got a fucking podcast studio in my garage. I've got what else? Mountain bikes in the shed, DJ equipment in the shed. So Nikita is like when I first met Nikita, it was insane. She had spreadsheets. She used to put fucking $50 away for savings every week. She'd donate to this charity every week. And then she was just on top of everything. And I was like, fuck, okay. And that's how we ended up getting this house. I'm like, all right, you take control of the finances. I'll step back. And then sure enough, in 6 to 8 months or something, we had enough for her to get into a house. So I know fuck all about our banking and our loans. You ask me how much is in our bank account right now, I've got no idea. I fucking basically just text Nikita and go, hey, is there enough money in the bank for a can of Coke on my way back from site? Weird shit like that, you know what I mean? We changed banks probably 3 years ago. I don't even have the login details on my phone because I went to install the app or something and I got 6 steps in and I'm like, this is too many steps. This is too many steps. My dog is fucking chewing something she's not meant to be. Oh yeah, dog's home, everyone. Don't want to talk about it. Moving on. But she's safe and breathing for you guys that care. Bank account, not so much. See, that's another reason we're looking at this. Don't even want to say the figure out loud as to what it ended up costing. But yeah, hefty sum to pay back. Now, the mortgage broker is talking to Nikita and I over the phone, and she's never done this before. I don't know why she decided to do this in last week's meeting. So we're talking to her, and then Nikita was doing 80% of the talking, right? I was sitting there just because I had to be in the conversation. But the times that I was talking, for whatever reason, our mortgage broker reverted all the way back to the 70s or something, where only men were allowed to talk, and she'd be like, oh, James, this might interest you a little bit more than Nikita. And then she'd start talking about interest rates and why this bank's better than that bank. And I'm sitting there oh, okay, yep, nah, 100%. And Nikita's just sitting there stewing going, James is fucking stupid. He has no idea what you're talking about right now. But there's probably 3 occasions where she was just like, oh, James, this is probably more of a you question than Nikita. And it was just shit that I had no idea about. And then I'd just basically agree with what she was saying. And then Nikita would have to ask a follow-up question just to get the answer, the question answered correctly. But yeah, I just thought that was funny that, Nikita got pretty pissed off that we reverted back to the olden days and only men were allowed to talk about finances. So we still don't know. Still don't know if it's going ahead, but the mortgage broker was fucking the position you guys are in, you could basically get a multi-million-dollar house at this stage. So we're not keen on doing that though. So we just want to get a bit of fun money, pay off a couple of debts, and make the most of these high what the fuck am I saying? High house prices. There we go. He's nailed it the last time. But we'll keep it on the family track, eh? Let's keep it on the family track. I was driving around with Westy yesterday. Yes, Westy was like my little shadow yesterday, right? I had to do a fair bit of work getting this job ready for install today. Then I had to go help mum and dad put a fence up. And then Westy wanted to go ride his motorbike for a little bit and go for a swim and blah, blah, blah. So he was in my back pocket all day yesterday following me around. And we were driving and I just said to him, I'm like, hey, do you reckon you could keep a secret? And he's like, yeah, 100%. Because, and I thought Westy was at this level where he could do this comfortably, right? Because my mum's bought me stuff and then she's like looked at Westy and been like, oh, Westy knew the whole time. I'm like, oh, good job, buddy, for keeping the secret. I had no idea. Nikita's bought me stuff. Same deal. She's like, don't tell Dad, Westy. He'll keep that fucking secret locked, safe inside. So I'm driving with him yesterday. I go, can you keep a secret? He goes, yeah, 100%. And I go, you know how the last like 3 years, so to preface this, Nikita is fucking obsessed with Christmas, right? To the point of like, it's sickening. Like Christmas trees up. It's November now. To be fair, it was up before Halloween last year. So to give her credit, she put it up the day after Halloween this year. So we're getting better. But there's a Christmas tree farm out near Stanthorpe, right? Which is probably like a 3 hour, I haven't even mapped it, 3 hour, maybe 4 hour drive from where we live. And the last 3 years she's booked the tickets and stuff, and something's always come up and we've never been able to make the trip. So this year she hasn't mentioned a thing about it, right? And every Thursday, this Christmas tree farm does a live on their Facebook and Nikita will sit there like it's a primetime show on Netflix and just sit there and watch this lady show all these new fucking decorations and ornaments and shit that she's got in her shop this week. And Nikita just froths off it. So she was watching it like last week and I'm like, fuck, she hasn't even mentioned it this year. I should secretly plan a trip out there and then that'll blow her socks off, you know what I mean? So I say to Westy, I'm like, you know how we were meant to go there? We haven't been able to. He's like, yeah. And he's like, can we go this year? And I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about surprising mum. Like, you can't tell her. And then he's like, yeah, 100%. And we start talking about the trip. We're like, oh, we can pull in here on the way and do all this fun shit. And a few hours go past. We get home later that day. We sit down at the dinner table to have some dinner as a family. And out of nowhere, right, we're having a regular conversation. There's banter flying around. Everyone's having a laugh. Hey, don't fucking do that. Hey, use your fork. Hey, don't throw a fucking sausage at Dad's head. You know, usual shit. And Westy just comes out with, hey, Mum, I've got a secret I'm not allowed to tell you. What the fuck? Where did that come from? Before I told you the secret, I remember saying, hey, Westy, can you keep a secret? You looking me in the eyes and going, yeah, 100%. That doesn't mean go to the person the secret's for and like warn them about it or like tease them with it. So Nikita goes, oh, what is it? Now, if Nikita knows this is a secret, she's going to do everything she can to find out. So Westy goes, I'm not allowed to tell you. And of course, this turned into a big game of back and forth between the two of them, of Nikita guessing all this shit and Westy like, nah. Anyway, she guesses like 4 things and then she's like, do we have to do it like around Christmas time? And Westy's like, yep. And she's like, oh my God, are we going to the Christmas farm? And everything she was suggesting before, Westy was so quickly and arrogantly going, nope, nah, that's not it, nah. And then she goes, are we going to the Christmas farm? He pauses for 10 seconds, right? Not even joking. Oh, the cat. The cat got the camera. Is that still lined up? 1 sec. Give me a sec. Oh, the cat's done it again. She's fucking ruined another episode. What are we going to do with her? Anyway, he pauses for 10 seconds. I think this is what I was up to. And looks at me. And I've just looked at him and he goes, no. And Nikita just fucking gets all excited. She's like, oh my God, we're going to the Christmas farm. When are we going? Where are we staying? Just getting full into all the details, which I haven't really worked out yet, to be honest. It was just an idea that I was floating around. And yeah, surprise out the window. And then I was like, oh, like I started to get like a little bit shitty at Westy. And I'm like, fucking, I told you it was a secret. And Nikita's like, you can't tell him a secret and expect him not to like tell anyone. And I'm like, you guys do it and he doesn't tell me. And she's like, yeah, but I don't know. I guess he's just good at keeping secrets from you. I'm like, fuck me. So, yeah, cat's out of the bag. Something else might even happen coming up before then. But hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we're heading out to what's it called? Granite Belt Christmas Farm, I think it's called. Oh, if you guys have been there, let me know. Let me know if it's worth the drive. According to Nikita, it's fucking going to be the best thing we've ever done. But I am still trying to sell my old ute, right? Still trying to sell my old ute. Had a couple of people come look at it, and I've got all over the ad, right? I'm like, this is an old work ute. Do not come and fucking be like, oh, it's a bit scratched. Oh, there's a couple of marks on it. Like all over the ad. I'm like, this has been a work ute. I bought it off an electrical company. Then it's been used for cabinet making since I've had it, blah, blah, blah. Like it's not in pristine condition. But on the other hand, it's really not that bad. Like if someone wanted to put the time and effort into it, give it a good cut and polish, give the inside a nice detail, it'd actually be like a sick ute for like someone's first car sort of thing, or even just another as a work ute. But I had a bloke come and look at it on the weekend, and as soon as he rocked up, I was like, oh no, this is not going to be fun. But he jumps out of the car. So there's 3 young blokes in the car, and straight away I'm like, I'm never seeing this ute again. This ute is fucking gone. 2 of them walk over. The dude buying it, who just seems super chilled out, and he's just sort of couldn't care less. And his mate rocks up all in black beanie and a boiling hot day, like bank robber type shit. He had a backpack on, like a black backpack, in boots and shit. Like he was ready for war. And I was like, what the fuck? And this dude just starts going all over the car. He's underneath. He's got some sort of detachable fucking torch that he like, you know, those like action movies where they like flick a baton, like a baton or something, and like something comes out of it. That's what his torch was like. He just pulled it out of his bag, flicks this torch, and then it comes shooting out of the handle. And he's like looking around the motor and shit. He's fucking doing everything. And I'm like, oh, this guy either knows what he's looking for or he's just the best actor in the world. Like he looked like he just came from the set of Fast and Furious or something. And he's going over everything. He's like, oh, this is wrong with it. But in a car this age with this many Ks, you'd expect that. It's not that bad to fix, blah, blah, blah. So he's going over it. And I'm standing there with his mate who's actually buying it. And we're just making small talk and shit. And he's a little bit, let's say this. You know, the stoners that I mentioned earlier, I would imagine this guy would be in that group that we were sitting with. Because he walks to the back of the ute, and I'm like, oh, he must be looking at the toolboxes on the tray or something. He must be doing something over there because he bent down beside the ute. He comes back over to me, and he goes, I just found a 4-leaf clover. And I'm like, cool, man. That's really cool. And he's like, yeah, see? Like, shows me it. I'm like, sick. That's a 4-leaf clover. He's like, I see them everywhere. I'm like, okay, good to know. He goes, that's why I got one tattooed on my neck. Turns to the other side and shows me a fucking 4-leaf clover neck tattoo. I'm like, that's sick, man. Good job. And he's like, yeah, I'll keep it for later. I don't know what he was going to do with it later, but he pulled his wallet out and like put it in the money part of the wallet. So who knows? And unfortunately, I'm never going to see him again because he reckons he bought another car after he left here. So who knows? Who knows what the truth is? But all right, we're at about half an hour-ish. I expected would go for about 40 minutes. So it's probably going to work out pretty all right. This was another thing that annoyed Nikita this week. So Nikita's got this little bucket list going in her head of all these crazy things she wants to see. Like she wants to see a shooting star. So many times I'll just walk out in the backyard and be like, oh, look, a shooting star. Like same as the dude with the 4-leaf clover. I see this shit all the time. And another crazy thing that she's wanted to see is like wild horses, like horses in the wild. Now, I went up the sunny coast on Saturday. We'll touch on it in my week in comedy. But there's a servo on the side of the Bruce Highway, and it's called Wild Horse Lookout or something like that. And I'm like, oh, it's fucking probably just a cool name for them to call their servo. There's a Macca's there, there's a Beefies, Hungry Jacks, all the usual shit, right? It's almost like a mini service center, but it's not all in the one building. So I'm cruising back from the sunny coast on Saturday night, and I'm like, fuck, I'm sleepy, I'm hungry. I'm going to pull in here and just get something to eat and something to drink to keep me awake. Pull in there, get my food, and as I'm coming out, it's pitch black, right? And there's not really anyone around other than the cars going down the highway. So I'm on this dark service road, and as I've turned out of the servo, I've driven maybe 100 meters, and I see on the side of the road just 3 fucking wild horses just eating grass. I'm like, that is insane to see just in the middle of like civilization. So I don't know if that like bushland along there is just full of wild horses or something, but pretty fucking sick. Got home and told Nikita, and she's like, oh, I want to see fucking wild horses. So yeah, I would imagine she's probably going to force me to drive her to the sunny coast. We're just going to take lookout at that servo and just look for fucking wild horses one day, but hopefully not. Hopefully it doesn't end in that. Let's get into the week in comedy, hey, since I mentioned it. Oh, that was some good H2O. But yeah, did a new gig up on the sunny coast, and it was the first night they ran it. So yeah, a couple of minor hiccups here and there, but you get that with your first shows, and hopefully it blossoms into something big and special. But yeah, fuck, there was I don't even know like how to mention this without sounding like a diva or something, but just a couple of things that were like we rocked up to the gig, and it was like, it wasn't a paid gig or anything like that. It was literally just, do you want to come do this gig? And more or less I thought it was an open mic night, which it did end up being. But I rock up to the gig, and it was at like a thrift store, I guess you'd say, like a secondhand store of just clothing and comic books and all that sort of stuff. And when we've rocked up, they've told us, they're like, oh, you can pick anything from the store and put it on and wear it through your set. And I was like, oh, like anyone that's seen me do comedy, I've worn the same thing every single set since I started. Only in the last 2 weeks have I started changing my shirts. So like now I wear like this shirt, like just oversized t-shirts basically I wear on stage now. It doesn't have to be black anymore. Crazy, right? Might even start wearing grey or white pants or something. I don't know. The options are endless. But I was just like, oh, okay, I'll have a look. And then I was like, because again, it was mentioned at the start that it could have been turned into a paid gig, but they're going back and forth with the venue and things like that. So then I've said, oh, do we get to keep whatever we pick? And then I was looked at like the biggest piece of shit. And they're like, no, you just get to wear it for your set. So then I was like, I don't really want to fucking wear someone else's clothes for my set. Like I want to feel comfortable. Anyway, we kept getting asked to, so I went and had a look, and luckily couldn't find anything in my size. So I just wore what I had on. So that was sick. And that was the first little curveball. Anyway, get up, do my set. There was 6 people there, which again, drive to the sunny coast. Oh, you'd hope for more, but gigs are what they are. You know what I mean? So luckily, I had just listened to Kevin Harts' book again, like throughout the last week, and there was a part in there where he was like he had just broken through that fame level sort of thing. And then he basically got put on like a development deal where a company owned him for 12 months or something, and he couldn't do anything else. So he was stuck. So he's like, fuck, I'm just going to do stand-up comedy nonstop. So he tells his manager, he's like, book me in any room you can get me in, whether there's 2 people there or 100 people. He's like, I'll fucking do comedy at a bowling alley. So I rocked up. I saw the 6 people. I'm like, all right, fucking is what it is. Give these 6 people the best show they've ever seen. And yeah, considering I did fucking pretty well with the 6 people there, with the other sort of curveballs that were going on here and there before my set. For example, right before my set was a musical act who spent about let's call it an even 8 minutes tuning his guitar on stage. So yeah, that was a tough act to follow, trying to pump some energy back in the room. But yeah, I did okay. Now, while I was on stage, I noticed that the owner was filming us, and I was like, oh, that's fucking weird. They might be chopping it up or something and like putting together a bit of a promo video for the next one. Like I know heaps of comedy rooms do that, where you do these cool chops and edits and stuff. You put it in black and white. You put some sick music behind it. You're like, come see comedy next month, blah, blah, blah. And you make it look like the sickest thing you've ever seen, right? So I assumed it was that. Now, gig's finished. I've pretty much got off stage and ran straight to my car. I'm like, fuck, I want to get home. And yeah, next day, for whatever reason, I was just walking around with Westy, and I was like, it just clicked in my head again for some reason. I'm like, why was this dude like recording the entire set? And then I jumped on the venue's Instagram, and they had posted all like our entire sets on their Instagram. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I know I said I did okay, but it was still just like 6 people. So it wasn't like, and anyone that follows me on social media will know that I fucking barely post comedy clips as it is. You know what I mean? Unless something like really hits. Like this week I put that toilet paper joke that Ash fucking pitched to me. I put that up this week. But even to get that up there, I was like, fucking took me ages. And I've noticed like the whole set is on there of me basically politely eating a dick with moments of like just getting the crowd engaged. So I was like, that cannot be on the fucking internet. So I've messaged the venue. I'm like, hey mate, can you please pull that down? Like I don't really want that on the internet. And then yeah, they sort of sent back and they were just like, done. That's all they said. So I don't know if they were shitty at that or something, but yeah, I spoke to a couple of people about it, and luckily, because when I first saw it, I'm like, fuck, am I going to sound like a whiny cunt, like asking them to pull this down? Luckily, every single person that I messaged asking them had said, no, that's fucking so wrong. Like, get them to pull it down. A, you weren't paid for the gig, and B, they didn't ask your permission or get you to sign a waiver or anything like that. So, yeah, I think I was well within my rights there, but is what it is. The annoying thing, this is what happens when you've got such a big heart, right? So last week I got offered a gig way closer to home, and I knew it was going to be a fucking sick gig, right? And as I was 2 hours away from home bombing, I was noticing on my Instagram story all the people that were at this gig. They're just filming from the back of the room. There was like 80 people there. They were laughing at anything and everything. I'm like, fuck, that could have been me. But is what it is. Like I said, it's the first show. Hopefully they build on what they had there. They work out the kinks, and turns into a good little room. But yeah, I personally don't think I will be heading back up there anytime soon. But I wish them the best. Let's put it that way. What else? I won't go too far into what I've watched and listened to this week, but I just jotted them down anyway because I was like, I might as well mention them. So I mentioned the Kevin Hart book. Still a fucking sick. I listened to it on Audible, so it's still a sick listen. It's basically like a 6-hour podcast from Kevin Hart about his come up. So yeah, so many hidden little gems in there that you can take and use, but the other things I watched, I've started rewatching the series New Girl. I don't know if you guys have seen that. And I was worried that it wasn't going to hold up. I'm only about six episodes in, but still funny as fuck. Yeah, Nikita and I stumbled across that one while we were on a cruise ship, weirdly. We went on like a cruise when we were younger. Turns out it was like a retirement cruise. So we were the youngest people on the whole boat. And it just turned into one of the most boring weeks of our lives. And we just found ourselves in the bedroom just flipping through the channels, and then we stumbled across an episode of that, and we just binge watched the entire series as soon as we got home. But yeah, so fucking funny. Go check that out. The other thing, there's been a sick little teaser of a song recently all over TikTok, and it hasn't been released yet, but when it does, I think it's going to be sick. But it's from Frank Ocean, which I don't really listen to too much Frank Ocean unless he's like collaborated on a song or something like that. But he's done like a little snippet called Wise Men. I think it is Wise Man or Wise Men or something. And just fucking sounds like it's going to be the biggest banger we've heard all year, I reckon. So go give that a listen if you're on TikTok. But yeah, again, I won't dig too deep into any of that. I need to get this edited and uploaded. So let's go straight into the motivational clip for the week. This is where I'll have to fuck around with the sound again. So let's find my mouse. Let's bring it over here. Where are we? Hopefully you guys can still hear me. It says we're connected. Let's drag it across. Let's see if we can make this fucking work. I'm going to hit play. Hopefully something comes out.
And I just...
Nah, cut off the start there. All right, let's start it again. You ready? 3, 2, 1.
What would you do if you weren't afraid? And I love thinking about that when I'm thinking about big life decisions. Like, what would I do if I weren't afraid? And it's usually like the big one that I really want to do, but I'm afraid to do it. It's like, that's what I should do.
You're always afraid to take the first step because all you see is every negative thing 10 miles down the road. But you can do anything you want. You are bound by nothing.
You have to lose your fear of failure. You have to fail. You got to get it wrong to get it right.
When it feels scary to jump, Ian, that is exactly when you jump. Otherwise, you end up staying in the same place your whole life. And that I can't do.
Fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And so it looks like this ocean that you're going to step into and drown. But as soon as you step into it, you realize it was not that deep at all, and you can keep walking through it. And I just love that visual, because a lot of times when it's like we have this anxiety around this big decision we have to make, if you actually take the step and realize that it's not death, you're not going to drown immediately. There's plenty of other steps you can take from there, even if you get a little wet.
That hit home for me this week. So, yeah, basically, as I mentioned last week, I had fuck all gigs, and I've pretty much got fuck all gigs again this week because I've just got a couple of, probably next week as well now that I think about it, but I've got a few weeks of just super lame like admin work, just fucking emails and phone calls and shit like that. Trying to work on some pretty big things coming. So once they're all ironed out, I'll bring them to the table. But until then, shows for this week. In hindsight, I should have fucking plugged this one last week because now you guys can't come. But I'll be at the Newmarket Hotel tonight, Monday. So it'll be last night for you guys for sit-down comedy. So hopefully I have a fucking sick set there. Then the other gig I have this week, I can't say too much about it this week. I will give an in-depth detail about it next week. But basically I've been booked for a private show. So we'll see how that goes. Bit of a private comedy show that I can't digress too much on, but I'm keen as fuck for it. Looking forward to it. I know it's going to be a sick gig without even going to it yet, but stay tuned for that one. If you can't come to any of that I've just mentioned, send me some DMs on Instagram, CantGetAnyWorsePodcast, or send me an email, CantGetAnyWorsePod@gmail.com. Share the podcast around to your friends. We're still on that steady incline again, which is good to see. And if I don't see you at one of the gigs, I will see you later.